So we just saw the Teatro Piccolo or Odeum. This is actually the Great Theater, the Pompeii Theatrum Mundi, Theater of the World, the Great Theater. This was used in its time for the much larger performances, your typical tragedies and comedies that the ancients loved. Romans particular fans of ancient Greek tragedy, as well as comedies from comedians in their civilization like Plautus. So the way this is formed is it's made from a hollowed out hill. Greek amphitheaters require a hollowed out hill to be made to help with the acoustics and to form this very rigid and very kind of like stratified system you see of seats, as we now even use today. Now, there are a few big differences. You can't see it from this side, but a Roman theater has a few differences, mainly that terracotta brick is used, and that at the front, there's a few major differences in that there are 3 doors on stage. In Greek theater, typically you might have an entrance back. This is your typical backstage, but there are 3 doors as there are 3 houses or 3 locations in each Roman play. So that would be accounted for there. And the other big difference is that thing you see in the middle, right at the bottom there, if you see that bottom set of stairs, that is what we call the orchestra. We know orchestra as basically where musicians play, but an orchestra for the ancient Greeks would be the location that the chorus dances within. The chorus is, well, it's like a chorus that we have nowadays, but also much more different. They were actually a role within the play. They were usually a group of people that were within the story, or possibly even the inner monologue of the character that is currently speaking. The chorus would be there in this orchestra, this circle in the middle before the stage, and they would be singing to both the audience as well as to the main character. When the Romans took on this construction, they actually removed the orchestra's purpose for the chorus, and they actually made it a location for the upper class to sit. Augustus actually did this with this theater. This theater was built in the 3rd century BCE and was later developed again by Augustus to have a section below for the upper class. On both sides of the entrances, you would have the tribullares, and in the center, you would have the location that the upper class would typically sit. The summa clavi is what Augustus would call that. That was like the prime VIP seats, the box, essentially, that you'd have in later Baroque theaters. Now, the way that you sat in the theater was organized, essentially, from down to up, just like we saw with the Teatro Piccolo or Odeum. The VIPs, the emperor, as well as any important figures, would sit at the bottom section of the orchestra. Going up, you would have other noble individuals, as well as people who were important for the administration of the city. You'd also have temple priests and whatnot who would gain special positions, special seating, which would be made of marble. Now, as you went up, the seats would no longer be fully made of marble. Instead, they would be made of less quality material, and you would have people sitting such as normal citizens. Then you would have your freedmen. Then you would have typically women and whatnot. Because, as we know, Roman society, despite being open in that women and as well as freedmen could eventually own property, was still not the most equal. So that is how the seating went, scaled from down to up based on social class, social position. And similar seating methods would be reversed, but continued in later Europe. As we know, if you've seen movies like Phantom of the Opera, or you've seen anything that shows an opera house, the rich would eventually sit in boxes on the higher sections of theaters, while the poor would usually sit on the ground. Shakespeare would actually call them the groundlings, the people who couldn't afford the best tickets. So we've covered the theater district, and we're now going to move on to the main streets of Pompeii. I'll see you there.